Six Flags Mexico is the premier theme park in Latin America. Located in the outskirts of Mexico City in the Talapian Forest, Six Flags Mexico has some similarities to the US Six Flags parks, but overall, it just feels a bit nicer. And that may be explained by the park's origins. The park opened in 1982 as Reino Aventura, or Adventure Kingdom in English. And one of the strongest points of this park was its appearance. When Premier Parks and Six Flags purchased the park in 1999, the park started growing into the thrill destination that it is today. Before talking about the park itself, let me talk about the process how you get to Six Flags Mexico. Both times I have visited Six Flags Mexico, I flew into Mexico City International Airport. And both times I have taken an Uber to the park, and I strongly recommend this approach if you aren't familiar with driving in Mexico. First, Mexico City's roads are quite chaotic. The roads are not laid out like the United States or Europe, and there's a ton of traffic. Second, Ubers are very cheap. An hour-long ride to the park cost me less than $10 US. If you're traveling to Mexico City, there are two additional things you should know about the climate. First, it's extremely humid. Even if the actual temperature is just in the 70s, it'll feel extremely hot at Six Flags Mexico. Second, Mexico City's elevation is roughly 7,380 feet, which is roughly 2,000 feet higher than Denver. As a result, beware of altitude sickness. I was fine on my first day in Mexico City, but the altitude really started to affect me on the second day. With that background, let's talk about Six Flags Mexico. As I hinted at, this is a very nice looking park. The park is located atop a hill, and from up there, you get a beautiful vantage point of Mexico City's skyline and the surrounding mountain ranges. But beyond that, Six Flags Mexico is a much cleaner version of the US Six Flags parks and has better overall theming. Take the queue lines for example. Six Flags Mexico has some of the best themed queue lines in the world, and there are three attractions in particular that I want to highlight. Superman Ultima Escape takes guests through the Daily Planet. It's a better themed, more detailed version of the queue for the amazing adventures of Spider-Man at Islands of Adventure. Medusa Steel Coaster's queue begins in the park's former Crooked House, and it's decked out with some mysterious theming along the way. And Joker takes guests through a funhouse. This funhouse queue line is better than most standalone funhouses in my opinion, as it's filled with carnival mirrors, spinning plates, crooked floors, and a few theming touches from the Joker himself. Now, there is a good chance you'll be spending a lot of time in these queue lines unfortunately. Six Flags Mexico is the most visited theme park in all of Latin America, so it has been quite busy in both my visits. All the major rides have electronic cue boards out front, and I saw lines reach upwards of 2.5 hours for Medusa and Superman. And this is not the fault of the operators. The operators dispatch trains extremely fast. Superman runs 3 trains in peak season, and I rarely ever saw them stack trains there or on any other coaster. Meanwhile, Medusa had a 10-person staff to pump trains out at less than 30 seconds. That's unbelievable for an RMC, which are typically notoriously slow loaders. If you go during peak season, Six Flags Mexico is good about running their rides at max capacity. The park is just mobbed with people. If you go during the off-season, for example late January, you may find rides running 1 train. Heck, I found Medusa Steel Coaster running a Franken train. Medusa was running a single 5-car train spliced together from the red and orange train. Compare that to how Medusa typically runs with 2 6-car trains in peak season. The 1-train operations in the off-peak season result in long lines no matter what time you visit this park. But there is a way to avoid all these lines, and that's the Flash Pass. Six Flags Mexico offers a skip-the-line system like the US Six Flags parks, but it's operated a bit differently at Six Flags Mexico. As opposed to an electronic queue bot, Six Flags Mexico uses a paper punch card system. For $10 to $20 US, you can skip the line of 3 to 10 attractions, and I strongly recommend it. You can use it for 10 different attractions, or you can do what I did and pretty much use them all for Superman and Medusa. You can also buy a second Flash Pass if you go through the first one. I should also mention that the attraction lineup on the Flash Pass is missing some key attractions. The most notable ones currently missing are Wonder Woman, the park's SNS free spin and newest roller coaster, and also the Triple Torre Kilauea, the park's massive SNS drop tower. If you intend to get a flash pass and want to ride either of these attractions, I strongly recommend going on these two rides early in the day before the lines form. It's also noting that the list of rides available in the flash pass on the website is often not up to date. The website does not show Medusa as a flash pass attraction, but has been available on both my visits. Meanwhile, Kilauea has been listed as a flash pass ride on the website, but has not been eligible in either of my visits. Ultimately, check with the park on the day you visit to see what's available. From a coaster perspective, Six Flags Mexico is defined by Medusa's Steel Coaster and Superman El Ultimo Escape. These two coasters form one of the best top twos of any park. I'll have a more detailed review for both coasters linked in the description if you want to see those, as this review will just briefly highlight why each ride is so good. Medusa Steel Coaster is an RMC hybrid that was named the best steel coaster in the world in 2017 in the inaugural TPR Best Coaster poll. And this coaster has fantastic pacing. Medusa rips through its layout, and it also has excellent inversions. But I personally rank it towards the bottom of my RMC list since the airtime in this coaster isn't quite as good as the company's other offerings. Keep in mind, the airtime is still stronger than most coasters, and even one of the worst RMCs is still a top coaster. Superman El Ultimo Escape is a Morgan hypercoaster, and it's easily the park's most imposing attraction. If you're familiar with the trio of Cedar Fair hypercoasters in Wild Thing, Steel Force, and Mamba, know that Superman is head and shoulders better than those coasters. Superman has far better pacing and far stronger airtime. The turnaround section in particular stands out, combining some incredible airtime moments with strong laterals. But Six Flags Mexico does have a weakness, and that's that the rest of the park's coaster offerings is just okay. There are no other standout roller coasters. Wonder Woman is a fun coaster for sure. I genuinely like the SNS free spins. However, the design is so commonplace that it's not something I'd re-ride multiple times visiting a park far from home. Joker is a Gerstlauer spinner with an awesome queue that I mentioned earlier, and it has a different layout than the Pandemonium coasters at the US parks. And for the most part, it does ride similarly to Pandemonium despite the different layout. Except, Joker is a superior finale. You have this good airtime hill and a well-themed tunnel. The Dark Knight is a bit of a sore spot for me. This indoor Wild Mouse was originally supposed to go to Six Flags New England for the 2008 season. However, Six Flags New England started building the attraction without the proper permits, so the park was instructed to take the attraction down, and it found its way to Six Flags Mexico for the 2009 season. This is why Six Flags New England instead has the outdoor Gotham City Gauntlet Wild Mouse. And Dark Knight is definitely better than that Wild Mouse or your average Wild Mouse for that reason, thanks to the theming and minimalistic braking. But it is identical to the ones you'll find at Six Flags Great America and Six Flags Great Adventure. Rounding out the park's lineup are 2 rough Vekomas and 2 junior coasters. Six Flags Mexico is actually home to one of the first Vekoma boomerangs, and as you might expect, it's a bit of a headbanger. And the park is also home to Batman the Ride, except this isn't one of the awesome B&M inverts. Rather, this is a rough Vekoma SLC, but it's among the nicer looking Vekoma SLCs at least. And then you have Tsunami, a Zier Tivoli coaster with an odd pyramid structure above it, and Superman Krypton coaster, a Vekoma roller skater. Six Flags Mexico does have a strong supporting lineup of non-coasters though. For flats, there are 4 noteworthy ones. Kilauea is one of the best SNS drop towers. Not only does this one run the combo program that shoots you up and down, but this is among the more forceful versions, and it gives a breathtaking view of Mexico City. Supergirl is the park's funtime star flyer, and like the drop tower, it's another ride that gives incredible views of the city. Piñas Locas is a pretty lackluster flat to be honest, but it's notable for the goofy pineapple theming in the center of the ride. It just makes me smile. And lastly, this wasn't at the park when I last visited, but they have since added Crazy Andy, one of those giant Samperla frisbees. And those rides are always great. They're super forceful and give some solid floater airtime on the max swings. To beat the heat, you have a few water rides to choose from. I didn't do any of them on my visit because they're not in the Flash Pass, but you do have a Shoot the Chute in Aquaman, and a River Rapids ride in Rio Salvaje. Or if you want air conditioning to cool off, you have Justice League Battle for Metropolis. This is a copy of the versions found in the US parks, except this one, for obvious reasons, is in Spanish. My only issue is that I got an unfortunate car with a broken gun, and I was unable to communicate that to the employees with my awful Spanish. And to that point, very few employees at this park will speak English. So I was unable to hold a conversation with any employees because my Spanish is not very good. But the employees were super nice and understanding, so I was able to communicate via Google Translate. I didn't have any issues navigating the park otherwise, thanks to much of the signage being universal or in English. Again, I expected all the employees to talk in Spanish. I was in Mexico after all. I just was used to the parks in Europe where the employees are bilingual. So ultimately, is Six Flags Mexico worth visiting? Absolutely. This is a beautiful park, and that's not something you usually say about a Six Flags park. And you have an elite top 2 in Superman and Medusa. The biggest flaw with this park is the lack of quality coasters after the top 2. But I guess that just means you have more time to ride Superman and Medusa, which is never a bad thing. Ultimately, I would put Six Flags Mexico towards the middle of the Six Flags parks in terms of how they rank them. But the park would skyrocket if they added another 1 or 2 quality coasters because of how well run and well themed this park is. So those are my thoughts on Six Flags Mexico. What are your thoughts or experiences with the largest park in Latin America? I would love to hear your comments down below. If you enjoyed this review, I'd appreciate it if you gave this video a like and considered subscribing, as there will be more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for listening.